Hello, hello. It's your girl, Nori of DopeRadioFM.com. I'm so excited for the opportunity to talk to Grammy-nominated singer, songwriter, MC, educator, entrepreneur. Like all of the things that make Black women shine great, glow, flow, Indigenous people. You represent and embody all of those things. And so MuMu Fresh is joining me. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I love the introduction.
I'm trying to be. Yeah. But no, there are so many layers to you that I want to kind of peel back in a short amount of time. Mm-hmm. But the first thing I want to talk about is your project, Queen of Culture, 24 tracks of goodness. The collaborations are wonderful. I was first introduced to your music through Jimmy, and that's a mutual friend that we share. And I was like, okay, what is this song that he keeps playing? Because he had North Star on repeat. And I was like, what is this song? Because I like it and I find myself humming. The introduction, when I listened to Queen of Culture, I was like, wait a minute, it ties all in. Like, I'm really understanding what we're doing here. The video is amazing. Talk to me about this project in particular and what makes this such a beautiful body of work to you.
Yeah, man, I just feel like I can see my growth and my maturity from all of my different projects. There's a part in your life, right, where you're trying to prove things. And then there's another part in your life where you're just being. And to me, this album is really an example of my beingness. And I think it showcases, a lot of parts of who I am. Mm-hmm. And it showcases the MC, the personality. You also get to see the femininity and the sensitivity. Because sometimes I think there's this idea that if you're a rapper, that you can't have you can't be multifaceted and have layers. Like people always say, how do you just go from singing to rapping? I'm just like, because it's all me. I don't have to go switch up and become another person now to do it. It's not the Clark Kent Superman situation.
Right.
So it's seamless to me because that's how I hear it in my head before it comes out of my mouth and my body. So this project was I wanted to exemplify the different parts of the culture, and you'll hear that through the different genres. I feel really strongly about celebrating all of Black music. I don't really like the idea of the divisiveness of that genre can sometimes create where people feel like, well, how can you be a rapper and then go into a jazz tune? Because there wouldn't even be rap if there weren't jazz first.
Absolutely.
I see the lineage. I know the lineage. I know the connectedness of it. And so I love to genre band to show you that it's one, and it's Black music and it's ours, and we should be able to celebrate it and do it and express ourselves through any of those means necessary that tell the particular part of that story. And so you hear that on Queen of Cultures. I'm rapping over 6/8 time signatures. You hear just the hardcore 90s type of feel hip hop. You hear some reggae. It's that 60s funk. We got it's really just a full expression of Black music and just excellence. That's what we really want to embody on this project.
I feel like you embody that excellence, but I think the other part of this project in particular is that you hit on real issues that Black people are dealing with, or that people are dealing with that are from Black and brown communities, like reparations, to really dig into that, but do it in such a melodic way. I was like, what? Right. I love that. The Karen record, it's very current events, but it also takes you through a journey of just appreciating how far we've come and also how far we have to go. Yeah. And so I think that's what stands out. But I mean, you have the workout record and people were doing TikToks to that. It's so many different, whatever you're looking for, you can find it on Queen of Culture. And I think that's the beauty in what you've done. But talk to me about specifically the reparations track and the Karen track. and why that was so important to be added to this project.
Yeah, so a lot of times when artists who consider themselves to be, you know, activists or storytellers or conscious, they have a hard time with making the information accessible and digestible and entertaining, fun, you know, enjoyable. And so like, that's where I want to start. I want to start with a feel good record, feel good, you know, vibe. And then just like matter of factly talk to you about what's real to us. Cause I think as artists, especially within like hip hop or R&B, we get so like kind of pigeonholed into, we can only talk about a couple different things. Either we got to talk about, it got to be a love record or a record about the club or money or, you know, and it's just like, why can't our music be a reflection of the everything that we could have a conversation about? You know, when you get together with your friends, you're going to talk about everything under the sun, current events. You're going to talk about, you might talk about love. You might talk about your kids. You might talk about work. And I just feel like when I look back at my parents' generation, I feel like their music was more of a reflection, like full spectrum of their lives. And that's what I really wanted to bring it to the forefront. Everything that you can have a conversation with a friend about, you should be able to write a song about, and make it enjoyable. I look at Stevie Wonder as one of my like icons, and you know, that I follow, because Stevie has a song for every occasion, human emotion, whether you're being born, whether you're dying, whether it's your birthday, whether you're breaking up, you're getting together. And I love that about him. You know, I feel like we need more of that in our generation. We need to be able to address the times and address what we're really talking about. What are we going through? What are we thinking about? And so every project I've ever had, I'm always trying to push the envelope and push myself, because creatively is very, very difficult. Right. It's the hardest thing to do is to step outside of what you're used to hearing and find a way to talk about a current event, you know, in a way that's not corny or it's not like preachy, and it's not, yeah. So that's definitely, and Karen, the same thing. I told my DJ, I was like, I wanted to do more polyrhythms that I do with my my looper, and I wanted to make it really like almost like a kid song, like a carol, or what do you call those? A nursery rhyme. Yeah. But then talk about something really serious. I love that juxtaposition. Like, it's just, I don't know, it's humorous, it's just artistic. I'm just like one of those kind of artistic people. I'm always trying to expand how we look at something, play with our emotions, give you something you weren't expecting. So that was my feeling. And it was comical to me in my mind when I thought about it. So I said, this will be fun. I want to share it with y'all. You know? Yeah.
You know, it's crazy because some of the nursery rhymes that we have grown up on really are talking about real life situations, right? The ring around a posy and like all of those things. And so I love that you have the foresight to say, you know, I can incorporate this. I can do this, and it catch up with what we're experiencing now and in today, which I think is like, it's so, but you know, this is what sets you aside. Like the fact that you can go across genres and put all this together into, this is a project that I think for one, everybody should hear. It should be all over the radio, that because it's like, it catches you and it grabs you. And so with that, you know, you're not afraid to say that you're an activist or to be an activist or to use your voice in that way. And so a lot of people don't really talk about the Afro-Indigenous community. They don't talk about Native American heritage. And we were speaking on that a little bit. Talk to me about why it's so important and why you educate and advocate for Native American heritage the way that you do, especially because it looked like you're just a Black woman.
Right. And I am too, you know what I mean? Like, cause I think when I was growing up, there was always this, people wanted you to choose what you are. Like, are you Black or are you? And I was like, I am Black and I'm also Indigenous, you know, and my family's from Mississippi and they're Choctaw, you know what I mean? On my mother's side. And when you talk about, the experience of an Afro-Indigenous person it's very layered and nuanced, and most of the times it started back almost 1,000 years ago. It's not like one of my parents is Indian and one of my parents is Black. It is that when Europeans first encountered Indigenous people on the East Coast, they looked like me. You understand what I'm saying? And so kind of the Hollywood narrative that we've been given of what Indigenous people look like doesn't have to be true. Sometimes there are some that look that way, but it's not the vast majority. It really depends on what tribe you came from. And if you came across the Bering Straits, or if your ancestors came up from the Yucatan Peninsula, it really will change what your experience is. There are very few people that I believe, whether they think it's true or not, that can say I'm full blood anything, because if you've been living in this country a couple hundred years, you're mixed up. And a lot of times what I saw growing up is that people who were Indigenous and white got privileges that people who were Indigenous and Black did not get. There were a lot of white people who were buying into tribes and buying leadership positions and then infusing their white supremacy onto the tribal beliefs. And thus you found a lot of anti-Blackness. And I think I've just been one of them people who my whole life, like I feel like activists are born and not made. You know what I mean? I think it's something in you when you got a sense of justice. Yeah, when you see things happening in your community or happening to you or to somebody you love, and you're like, why is that happening? Why are y'all being like that? And so my mom always made it clear to me, like, we are who we are and we honor both our shields, you know, like in 1978, when the Freedom of Religion Act was passed for Native Americans, where you could even practice the culture, my grandmother, like a lot of other people's families, even people who grew up on reservations, were able to start going back and learning the language and learning the culture, because everybody was forced into Christianity and forced away from their culture, whether you lived on a reservation or not. Now, if you lived on a res, you got more of your culture than if you lived in a city. Like I grew up in Baltimore, but everybody was forced to assimilate and forced to, become indoctrinated by Christianity. And, you know, we lost a lot of our indigeneity, you know, and so when my mom went back and started learning what was stolen, she made sure that, like, you know, my kid's gonna dance in the powwow and we're gonna do ceremony. You know, my mom became a water pourer for the sweat lodge. And those things are real for me. You know what I mean? It's not just like, oh yeah, I know I got somebody in my family's Native American. I grew up practicing the culture and the ceremony. So that's a part of me that it's in me. It ain't on me. It's in me. I can't, there's nothing I can do, you know, to separate myself from that. And I think it's harder for other people than it is for me to, you know what I mean? Like I'm at peace with it. I'm at one with it. But sometimes, you know, people expect it to look a certain way. And again, I'm not a person who I don't need a tribal card. It's like, I'm not trying to come up, you know, through being indigenous. I'm not on any level, right? I don't even need any federal recognition, because who is the government to tell me what I am? Who are you? Right? For me, the important part of being indigenous has to do with the culture, the ceremony, the prayers. You know what I mean? The connection to the earth, understanding herbs, like that knowledge. To me, that is a big part of what you hear people calling self-care now. It really is grounding, rootedness, you know. Is a million different websites with new age remedies to grounding yourself. It is all tradition. It's traditional culture. If you go to South Africa, you'll find it. If you go to Nigeria, you'll find it. It's the way people who are connected to the soil, is the way we know how to function. We stay out in the sun. We get our strength from the sun. We eat from the trees. We eat from the ground. And so that's what being indigenous, you know, living an indigenous lifestyle helped me to understand, and to be constantly in the process of decolonizing myself helps me to be more centered and more grounded, closer to my God self. So that's why it's important to me. So, and when there are issues that are going on that are affecting Native people, I'm a part of that as well, because as an activist, things that I feel strongly about, you know, I want to help in any way that I can. And especially when we talk about water rights, I try to get a lot of people involved with the pipeline protests that normally may not deal with environmental issues, because sometimes when you're dealing with racism, you're dealing with poverty, you're dealing with violence, all these different things, environmental issues seem like it's the back of the bus. But what people don't realize is that when you don't have clean water to drink and fresh air to breathe, none of the other stuff is going to matter. It's going to pale in comparison when you can't breathe in the air. So I think environmental justice, and because Native people consider ourselves to be, caretakers of the earth, right? We say Great Spirit gave us the earth to take care of. So I think I feel very, very strongly about that. And I'm always trying to encourage other people, who I work with and who I know really do care about justice to get involved with those things, because it is water's an everybody issue. You know what I mean? Air, earth, like it's an everybody issue. And we can't just feel like, oh, this is a crunchy granola thing to be involved in. No, we all got to be involved in it and decrease our footprint. So that's why it's important to me. And I show up as myself. I don't ever try to be nobody else. I don't try to code switch. I don't have no interest in pretending like anything is a way that it's not, and I'm really grateful that my mom and my grandmother really did the groundwork to go back and find the culture, because the government really tried to bury it. They really tried to bury it. They wouldn't even let, if you did not go to Oklahoma or Arkansas, right, during the Indian Removal Act, you couldn't even identify as Native American anymore. You had to be colored. They were reclassifying everybody as colored so that you didn't have rights to your land, And there was still some federally, recognized tribes like some of the Cherokee and the Tuscarora, Meherrin, the Occaneechi, and things like that. But a lot of these tribes have had to fight to become federally recognized and to have an identity and things like that. So, this government always up to some bull. It don't ain't nothing new, but they all
it's crazy what's happening at the border. Now I saw that you have been posting and have posted about what's happening with our Haitian brothers and sisters. And so, you use your platform for good. And there are so many people that just kind of use it for themselves. And that's, that's their right. But I mean, there is such a colorfulness that comes to you as a person because of the way that you share. And it's just from a genuine place. I've been on multiple platforms, so I've heard you speak and also have read interviews, but it's always from a very genuine place. And I get that. To kind of change it up just a little bit, you're a mom and you are homeschooling your son. And then he's like, he'll go to school and he'll be like, I'm good.
Right, right.
How has that transition been? It's crazy because we had this whole pandemic and a lot of parents didn't know what to do, but you were fine. Like you were good because you were already homeschooling, in the throes of that. So how has it been with touring and being a mom and making music? Like you're a lyricist and your son is old enough to be like, oh, like, that was fly. Like,
oh yeah.
How has that been for you?
I know. I always ask him. I always ask him to rate my songs and rate the album. What you think about this bar and that bar? It's cool to have him. I always wanted him to be a part of my career and be a part of my music. But from the moment I knew I was pregnant, I knew I wanted him to be a part, and I didn't want to have to choose between my career and being a good mom. I have a lot of heroes that I know, gave me a lot of advice. Like they regret having chosen their career over their kids. And I just knew I just didn't want to do that. And, it's been I would never tell you that it's been easy, but it's always been worth it. People always ask me how I've done it. And I don't know. I had to. I showed up every day and just was like, okay, let me just be present today. What are we going to do today? How are we going to make this work today? And the best part I think about touring while homeschooling is that we could do a thing called unschooling, which is more experiential learning. So like there were a lot of times where I didn't use like a traditional curriculum. I looked up what were the like standards for his age, like what core concepts does he need to know. And then I would find creative ways to explore those key concepts. So if we're like in London, I'm making sure, like I have 2 shows in London and he's going to come with me and we are going to buy merch in the country because they took my merch at the airport. And so I know, right? Right. Yeah. So we got to buy new merch in the country. So now his math class is going to be converting US dollars to pounds. So, okay, normally we sell this t-shirt for this amount. This is how much I'm paying for it. This is how much I need to make back. And then we have to pay taxes on this in this country. This is how much their taxes is. So how much are we going to make back? What, how much do we need to sell to not go home broke, right? So that's a part of his class. And then, maybe we'll, in history or geography, he's learning something. So we'll go to their museum and we'll, so whatever those key concepts are, we'll make sure that, I'm so sorry. This is my son right here.
This is exactly what we talk about.
Right.
Literally.
I had to answer. He's let me know that he got off the train safely. Okay. This is exactly it. But yeah, so the best part of touring has been with my son has been like being able to give him the type of experiences that he's had,
That's crazy.
Yeah, I can't think of anything I'm more grateful for. I'll be real honest. Like, and being independent is very, very difficult. It's very, very, very difficult. But the best part about it has been that my son could travel with me, and he can have experiences that if I wasn't an artist, I wouldn't be able to afford to give him. So he's been able to go on like cruise ships with me, and so like we're learning about dolphins. And I did a cruise with the Grammys to the Bahamas. I booked an excursion for him to go swim with dolphins. And that was like a part of his curriculum. So now it's like, okay, he can talk firsthand about what it's like to touch a dolphin, to, communicate back and forth with the dolphin.
Yeah.
With him. Like, where are you getting that in school? When are you getting that in school?
You ain't getting no real life lessons. For real, for real. We still trying to figure out how pie applies to our life. Like, what is that? What we doing with pie?
Right. Yeah, so it's been really dope to be able to have that, like, and it's so invigorating for me. Like, it helps me with my gratitude, because like I said, as an independent artist, it might be like, okay, maybe you may not have the same kind of exposure, maybe you may not win the same kind of awards, but like, look what I'm able to give my son, like, and look what the experience that I'm able to have, like, just going to certain countries, helping people, like really feeling like I'm making a difference. Like, those are the moments that I write down, that I put on my wall, to really remember. So if you ever get into that feeling of feeling like, oh, this is not this, or this is not that, it's like, those are the moments that I go back to in my gratitude. And I can see my journey in my son. I can see how it has impacted him in a really positive way. I love it. Yeah, it's been a blessing. It's been a blessing.
I mean, but also as an independent artist, you have, I would say, really and truly been able to live this sustainable life with your artistry and with being creative. And a lot of people have not had the opportunity to be able to do both, right? And balance it out. And so I think you balance it out beautifully. But I mean, but also you, like, the way you're moving out here, a lot of people know who you are in the industry. A lot of people, you have built an incredible fan base that followed you, that you can tour internationally. Like, that don't happen for a lot of people, for real. And so you really figured out whatever science it is to make this work and stay afloat. Like, you figured it out, and you've kind of done it. You have done it independently. So when did you know, like, I got this, I can do this, this works? When was that, like, moment for you?
Every day I got to renew my faith. And it's interesting hearing you talk about it, right? Because being me is different than seeing it from outside of myself, and knowing how big my goals are. I don't know. I think maybe like 3 years ago, I definitely had a moment where I was like, most people just want to take care of their kids and pay their bills and go out on the weekend and have a good time. And you've already done that. You're doing that. I got to take care of my kid. I take care of my parents. And I'm like, it's only in music or entertainment do we have this feeling where it's like, if I'm not the most successful person, the most famous person in the whole world, then all was for naught, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, what other industry? Like if you're doing, I don't know, cybersecurity, or if you work at the post office or whatever the thing is, like, and you are paying all of your bills and you're living, like, you know, being in music is weird because I just feel like we're taught wrong, especially if you get into it as young as I got into it. You,
how young were you?
17. And I think that's why I practice gratitude so much, is like, I have to constantly remember, because I'm sure every artist that you talk to will feel like, I want to be further than I am. But it's rare that you really hear artists sit in the gratitude of like, you're doing better than like 80% of the planet right now. You know what I'm saying? Like if you really look at the state of the world, and I think it's important to always be ambitious, but it's even more important to be grateful. So I think maybe like 3 years ago is when I started just a practice of gratitude with myself, because I couldn't see myself. I couldn't see all that I had done and had created. You know, I had a very morphed perception of what I had created. And so I started doing these boards where I would write everything, like at the end of the year, everything that I said I was going to do, I would check it off. Like, bro, you did everything you said you wanted to do. And, you know, yeah. And then just, you know, sitting in gratitude every day. I go, you know, I do like a morning walk and I have to name like 100 things that I'm grateful for, because this industry will try to always make you feel like nothing is enough, like you're never enough. And there's no, it's like, if there's no destination that's far enough or great enough or big enough, you'll always feel unfulfilled no matter what you do.
That's true.
So that's something I'm always trying to be mindful of. And I'm not going to say like I'm above feeling that way, because I think we've all had this game played on us, where there's always like, there's always someone more successful and more with more money, with more followers. And so if that is our barometer for success, it's like, then we'll always feel unfulfilled. So yeah, I just try to stay in my gratitude about it and really constantly redefining like, what is my definition for success? And like I said, my son's well-being is such an important part of that. Like that's a big part of how I measure if I was successful or not. Because I remember when he was born and I was thinking, God, why would you put me in charge of this whole human being? Like, what makes you think I can do this, God? And, you know, and so many people at the time, they were like, there's no way that you're going to be able to be successful if you keep this baby, you know?
Oh,
and,
I hate that. I hate that stigma.
Yeah. And I was just like, well, we're going to see, aren't we? You know, and I can't tell you how much joy it brings me when I bump into those same people. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Who, you know, spoke over my life in a way, you know, that was limiting. Like they were speaking to me, projecting their own limitations onto me. And all I can say is like, you don't know me well.
Yeah.
You don't know me well because, you know, I don't know how to lose. Like, I just don't. Like, I'm so obsessed with like greatness and excellence. And I think when you think like that and you just keep focusing on the next moment of excellence, you'll look back and be like, I've had quite a few excellent moments in my life. You know what I mean? And it'll be like, a life well lived. And that's where I think I'm always like in reflection about trying to make sure that my perception is balanced, where I'm really seeing it for what it is. So and being grateful, because it's true. I told one of my sisters, right? Because she was saying like, well, you know, life is easy for you because you're an artist. Like you know, you're famous, so it's easy for you. And I said, you know, I walked past several people on the street visibly not doing well who could sing their ass off. Being able to sing and having talent has nothing to do with how well you're able to sustain your life with, you know what I mean, how quote unquote successful. That word is always, you know, very subjective, but it don't have nothing to do with talent. It really don't. Sometimes you have an easier time being less talented because people are less offended by you and less intimidated by you. But it really has to do with that motivation and that drive and how, you know, I'm always strategizing. I'm always like, I'm only limited by my creativity, by my belief in what I think is possible for myself.
Absolutely.
And God blows my mind every time. When I get out the way, God blows my mind every single time. You know,
I love that. You know, when I think about you saying that you're in a state of gratefulness, like I practice that because I know what it was before I got to this point in my life.
Yeah.
And so no matter what, I'm like, you know what, let me reset. Let me get it together because I'm tripping right now. But so Queen of Culture is out. People need to listen to it. It's a wonderful body of work. The videos are amazing. Visuals are incredible. I love what you did.
Thank you.
And you're getting ready to go on tour soon, right? So,
well, you know, if the Delta let us be great.
Okay.
The Delta 5, what's the next one? Lambda, MuMu, if it let us be great.
Out here. Yeah, but you know, we want to see you on tour. We want to continue to support your music. You also have, I wanted to speak about this, and we kind of touched on it a little bit, but you also have your university studies.
Yes.
So, you know, you have that you do. So with everything that you're doing, what is your goal with this tour? God willing, it happens and you get out on the road. What do you want to do with this tour in particular? Because you've toured all over the world before, so you're coming back at it again with this new tour. Are you on a tour with anybody in particular? You have anybody in mind to tour with, or is this going to be your solo tour?
Both. We are setting up a solo tour. One thing that I really want to do for my own tour is to have some of the young people from university studies who I have trained, have them to open up for me and give them a platform to also to be able to build an audience. Because that's one thing I really wish, and I guess, you know, it's just like when you have kids, right? You want to give your kids the things you didn't have. And sometimes when I see how competitive the music industry is and how some of the older artists don't support and try to give a platform to the younger artists, that's corny. Like you're preventing the culture from being able to grow in a healthy way when you act selfishly like that. And so I'm just like, for all of those times that I've had an icon be like, nah, she can't sing nowhere near my stage. So for every time I've had that happen, it's like, oh, all right, cool. I'm just gonna make sure I don't do that. You know, I'm gonna make sure that I give somebody else a platform, you know, especially when they're real talented. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you'll see icons or major artists, they'll put somebody on who's not that good, that won't be a threat to them, but they won't put somebody on that they think, you know, could be competition. But I feel like you should never look at the future of your own culture as your competition. It's your legacy. So I really want to support those artists. You know, I have some artists that I've worked with for the last couple of years, help teaching them how to songwrite and things like that. I want to give them a platform to be able to perform. And then I have some dates as well that I'm going to be doing openings for some major artists. I'll tell you about it more. And we're going to be doing all new songs. So I'm excited about performing this album. Again, sometimes I'll write a song and if I'm already on tour, I'll start performing the song first and then we'll record it. These songs are all recorded first and then we'll perform them. So it's like we're going to relearn the material when we perform them, and we're going to come up with live versions and expressions for these songs. And it's also like I'm excited to grow my show because I'm always trying to get to the next level. So I'm like, all right, let's do a more dramatic light show. Like, let's, you know, play around with LED lights. And now that we have these visuals from the music videos, I want to have the music videos playing while we're on stage. You know, I'm messing around with different glow in the dark things, you know, different scenes and sets and set design. Like, I really want to take it to that next level because it's important to me that independent be synonymous with excellence. You know, sometimes when you say independent, people automatically assume that it's like kind of low budget. Now, and the budget may be smaller, but it still I want it to be synonymous with excellence. So that's what I'm working on. And, you know, God willing, you know, we'll be, if not this in the next couple of months, for sure, in the spring, we'll be back at it. And, just better than ever. Like, I always want to push the envelope. I want to see how excellent can I be? How much better can my breath control be? How dope can the dances be? The visuals, like, that really, like, it does it for me. It does.
I
Like,
love it.
I never want to take the shortcut. I don't want no
Yeah.
auto-tune. I don't want no performance recording. I just like, I want to give the raw and the real and have the fans really have a spiritual experience. Like, that's so important to me.
Well, we are excited to continue to support you. The work that you're doing is important. It is impactful. And it absolutely is your legacy that we get a chance to experience. And so I love it. Queen of Culture is out now. The tour is coming soon. Again, how can people stay in contact with you? Your website, social media, give us all of it.
Yeah. So my website is mumufresh.com, mumufresh.com, and all of my socials will be there. You know, my YouTube, check out the music videos on my YouTube channel. So check out my Tiny Desk if you haven't already. And then in Instagram, I'm probably most active on Instagram is at MuMuFresh. Yeah, and my MuNiversityStudies.com website, you can see some of the types of classes that we offer. And we have new classes we're going to be offering in the winter that are automated classes that you can stream some of the content from our past boot camps. You know, we feature people like Salaam Remy and Jazzy Jeff and Eric Robeson, just talking about their creative process. Linnell Grant from Toping the Wigways camp, and just breaking down everything about art and about business. And so all of that content will be available in the winter. So
I love that. Thank you so much for taking out the time. MuMu Fresh, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you I so appreciate much. You.
We're definitely going to run this again. We're going to run this again. I know you're working on some other projects, documentaries, and things of that nature. So we will definitely be back to highlight the next project that you're working on and the next project and the next project. So thank you so much. I appreciate you checking in.
Blessings. Thank you, sis.